The stars twinkled in the vast darkness of space, unaware of the storm brewing among them. Across the galaxy, alien races clashed in a fierce war that threatened to tear the fabric of their civilizations apart. It was a time of chaos, a time when old alliances crumbled and new ones formed in the blink of an eye. In this tumultuous era, a young race from a small blue planet caught the attention of the galactic powers. Humans, as they called themselves, had only recently stepped onto the cosmic stage. Their world, Earth, was a tiny speck in the grand scheme of things, but its inhabitants had a fire in their eyes that made the older races take notice. Word spread quickly through the stars about these newcomers. Some spoke of their rapid technological advancements, others of their strange cultures and divided nations. But all agreed on one thing: humans were unlike anything they had seen before. As the Galactic War raged on, the major players began to consider involving Earth in their conflict. The Zarkonian Empire, with its vast fleets of crystalline ships, saw humans as potential cannon fodder. The Atlantic Confederation, known for its strategic brilliance, recognized the tactical advantage of having an unpredictable ally. Even the mysterious Void Collective, usually indifferent to the affairs of corporeal beings, showed interest in humanity's potential. On Earth, news of the Galactic War caused a stir. Governments around the world held emergency meetings. Military leaders pored over what little information they had about alien combat tactics. Scientists worked day and night to understand and improve upon foreign technologies that had been shared with them. In Washington, D.C., the United Nations Security Council gathered for an unprecedented session. The chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from every nation on Earth took their seats. At the center of it all stood Secretary General Amina Okafor, her face etched with the weight of the decision before them. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We face a choice that will define our species for generations to come. Do we join this war among the stars, or do we remain on the sidelines?" The room erupted in heated debate. Some argued passionately for Earth to seize this opportunity to prove itself on the galactic stage. Others cautioned against involving themselves in a conflict they barely understood. "We cannot ignore this chance to advance our civilization," shouted the representative from Brazil. "But at what cost?" countered his counterpart from Japan. "We risked the lives of millions in a war that isn't ours." As the arguments flew back and forth, a young aide rushed into the chamber, clutching a tablet. He whispered urgently to Secretary General Okafor, whose eyes widened at the news. "Silence, please," she called out, raising her hands. The room fell quiet, all eyes turning to her. "We've just received word. The Zarkonian fleet has entered our solar system. They're requesting to speak with Earth's leaders." A collective gasp rippled through the assembly. The decision they had been debating was no longer theoretical. The war had come to their doorstep. In orbit around Earth, the massive Zarkonian flagship loomed like a predator sizing up its prey. Its crystalline surface reflected the sunlight, casting dazzling patterns across the planet below. On the bridge, Admiral Zelnak of the Zarkonian Empire waited impatiently for the humans' response. "These primitives test my patience," he growled to his second-in-command. "Do they not realize the honor we bestow upon them by offering them a place in this war?" Back on Earth, world leaders scrambled to formulate a response. Military forces around the globe were put on high alert. In every nation, citizens looked to the sky with a mixture of fear and wonder, knowing that their world would never be the same. As tensions mounted and the clock ticked down, humanity stood on the brink of a decision that would echo across the stars. Would they take their first steps into a larger universe, or would they shy away from the cosmic conflict? The fate of Earth hung in the balance, awaiting the choice that would shape the destiny of an entire species. The decision was made. Earth would join the Galactic War. As the news spread across the planet, a mix of excitement and fear gripped the human population. Now, it was time for humanity to show the cosmos what they were made of. General Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the newly christened UES Defiant, Earth's first true warship built with a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology. She looked out at the stars, her face set with determination. "All systems ready, General," her second-in-command reported. Chen nodded. "Then let's show these aliens what humans can do." The Defiant, along with a fleet of smaller support ships, jumped into hyperspace, heading for their first battle. Their mission: to defend a small artillery outpost from a Zarkonian attack. As they arrived at the battlefield, the human fleet was met with chaos. Crystalline Zarkonian ships filled the sky, their weapons tearing into the artillery defenses. The aliens on both sides paused for a moment, surprised by the arrival of the unknown human ships. General Chen's voice crackled over the comms. "Remember your training. Let's show them why you don't mess with Earth." What happened next would be talked about in hushed whispers across the galaxy for years to come. The human ships dove into the fray with a recklessness that shocked their allies and enemies alike. They weaved between the larger alien ships, using their smaller size to their advantage. On board the Defiant, Chen barked orders. "Squad Alpha, flank left. Beta, draw their fire. Gamma, hit them where it hurts." The human pilots responded with a coordination that surprised the alien observers. They seemed to anticipate each other's moves, working together in a way the other races hadn't seen before. But it wasn't just their piloting skills that caught the aliens off guard. The humans had a few tricks up their sleeves. As a massive Zarkonian battleship bore down on them, the Defiant suddenly released a cloud of what looked like space junk. The Zarkonians laughed at what they thought was a desperate move. Their laughter turned to shock as the junk suddenly came to life, revealing itself to be a swarm of miniature drones. The drones attached themselves to the battleship's crystal surface, then detonated, causing cracks to spiderweb across the hull. "What is this madness?" the Zarkonian commander roared as his ship began to break apart. Meanwhile, on the ground of the artillery outpost, things were just as chaotic. A squad of human marines had been deployed to help defend the base. The artillery watched in awe as the humans employed tactics they had never seen before. Instead of standing and fighting in organized lines like the artillery, the humans used the environment to their advantage. They set traps, used decoys, and employed guerrilla tactics that left the Zarkonian ground forces in disarray. Sergeant Maria Rodriguez led her team through the alien battlefield. "Move, move, move," she shouted, tossing a strange device towards a group of advancing Zarkonians. The device exploded in a blinding flash, disorienting the crystalline aliens and allowing the humans to pick them off one by one. As the battle raged on, word of the humans' unexpected effectiveness spread quickly. The Zarkonians, who had expected an easy victory, found themselves being pushed back on all fronts. In the span of just a few hours, the tide of the battle had turned. The Zarkonian forces retreated, leaving behind a trail of destruction and a lot of confused aliens. As the dust settled, both the Atlarii and the remaining Zarkonians looked at the humans with new eyes. These newcomers to the galactic stage had not just held their own. They had changed the entire course of the battle with their unconventional tactics and surprising adaptability. On board the Defiant, General Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Good work, everyone. But this is just the beginning. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity is a force to be reckoned with." As news of the human victory spread across the stars, other races began to take notice. Humanity had made its mark, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Months passed, and humanity's reputation grew with each battle. The galaxy watched in awe and fear as these newcomers turned the tide of war again and again. But now, the humans faced their biggest challenge yet, a battle that would decide the fate of an entire sector. The Zarkonian Empire had gathered its largest fleet for a final push against the Atlarii homeworld. If they succeeded, the war would be all but over. The Atlarii called for aid, and humanity answered. Admiral Jane Foster stood on the bridge of the USS Thunderchild, Earth's newest and most advanced warship. Around her, a mix of human and alien ships prepared for the fight of their lives. "This is it, people," Foster addressed her crew. "Everything we've done has led to this moment. Let's make Earth proud." As the enemy fleet appeared on their scanners, even the bravest hearts skipped a beat. The Zarkonian armada was massive, their crystal ships glittering menacingly in the light of the artillery sun. But humanity had a plan. A plan so crazy, so unexpected, that it just might work. "Execute Operation Trojan Horse," Foster commanded. Suddenly, several human ships appeared to malfunction. They drifted towards the Zarkonian fleet, looking for all the world like easy targets. The Zarkonians, confident in their superiority, moved to capture these disabled vessels. It was a trap. As soon as the human ships were within the enemy formation, they exploded in a dazzling display of light and energy. But these weren't normal explosions. The humans had developed a new weapon, a device that created localized wormholes. Chaos erupted in the Zarkonian fleet as ships were torn apart, sucked into miniature black holes, or spit out in pieces across different parts of space. The carefully organized enemy formation crumbled into disarray. "Now," shouted Foster, "all ships, engage." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships darted between their larger alien allies, drawing enemy fire and creating openings for devastating counterattacks. On the ground, human special forces used their ingenuity to sabotage Zarkonian ground defenses, allowing artillery troops to advance. In the thick of the fight, a young human pilot named Alex Chen found himself face to face with the Zarkonian flagship. His small fighter was dwarfed by the massive crystal vessel, but Chen didn't back down. "This is for Earth," he muttered, activating an experimental device on his ship. A beam of energy shot out, not damaging the Zarkonian ship, but altering its crystal structure. The once impenetrable hull became brittle, cracking under its own weight. As the enemy flagship began to crumble, the rest of the Zarkonian fleet fell into disarray. Victory was within grasp. But the Zarkonians had one last, desperate move. Their remaining ships began to power up their main weapons, preparing for a suicidal attack that would destroy everything in the sector, including themselves. Admiral Foster's voice crackled over the comms. "All ships, fall back. They're going to." Her words were cut short as a blinding light filled the sky. Everyone braced for the end. But the end didn't come. When the light faded, they saw a handful of human ships positioned around the Zarkonian fleet. These brave crews had used their wormhole devices to redirect the massive energy discharge into empty space, saving countless lives at the risk of their own. As the dust settled, the magnitude of what had just happened began to sink in. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had single-handedly changed the course of the entire war. In the aftermath, aliens from both sides looked at the humans with a new emotion: fear. These newcomers had done the impossible, using strategies and technologies that no one had thought of before. As news of the battle spread across the galaxy, one question was on everyone's minds: just what were these humans capable of? And more importantly, could anyone stop them if they decided to conquer the galaxy for themselves? The war was over, but a new era of galactic politics was just beginning, one where humanity would play a central and terrifying role. The Galactic War was over, but peace didn't bring the calm everyone had hoped for. Instead, a new kind of tension filled the air, a tension centered around humanity. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, representatives from 100 different species gathered to discuss the future. The massive chamber buzzed with nervous energy as aliens of all shapes and sizes whispered among themselves. Zarlak, the Zarkonian ambassador, stood to address the council. His crystalline form shimmered under the bright lights. "We cannot ignore the threat that humanity poses," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "You all saw what they did in the war. Their tactics, their technology. They're unpredictable and dangerous." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Even former allies of humanity shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Tilana, the artillery representative, rose to speak next. But we cannot forget that the humans fought alongside us. Without them, many of us wouldn't be here today. The debate raged on, growing more heated with each passing moment. Some argued for stricter control over human expansion, while others suggested limiting their access to advanced technologies. Meanwhile, back on Earth, humans celebrated their victory, unaware of the storm brewing in the Galactic Council. Streets were filled with parades, and the names of war heroes were on everyone's lips. In a quiet office in Geneva, however, the mood was far from celebratory. United Earth President Elena Rodriguez sat with her advisors, reviewing reports from their galactic ambassadors. "It seems our victory has made us more enemies than friends," she said, her brow furrowed with concern. Her chief of staff nodded grimly. "Many species fear us now. They think we might turn our military might against them next." Rodriguez sighed. How quickly they forget that we fought to protect them. Across the galaxy, that fear was turning into action. On the jungle world of XR7, a group of alien scientists worked in secret to develop weapons specifically designed to counter human tactics. In the asteroid belts of the Omega system, pirates began to avoid human ships, spreading tales of their terrifying prowess in battle. Even on worlds where humans had once been welcomed as heroes, things were changing. Signs appeared in shop windows. No humans allowed. Children were taught to be wary of these strange, unpredictable beings. The tension reached a boiling point when a human trade ship was denied entry at a major galactic port. The captain, confused and angry, demanded an explanation. "We're sorry," the port authority said, not sounding sorry at all. "But your kind are too dangerous. We can't risk having you here." News of the incident spread quickly, causing outrage on Earth and deepening the divide between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. In response, some humans began to advocate for isolation. "If they don't want us," the argument went, "then we don't need them either. We can build our own galactic empire." Others called for a show of force. "Let's remind them why they feared us in the first place," these war hawks suggested. But cooler heads like President Rodriguez worked tirelessly to salvage diplomatic relations. "We fought for peace," she reminded her people in a worldwide address. "Let's not throw that away because of fear and misunderstanding." As the debate raged on Earth, the Galactic Council came to a decision. They would propose a set of restrictions on human activities in space. These rules would limit human expansion, regulate their military, and place their most advanced technologies under galactic supervision. When the proposal reached Earth, it was met with disbelief and anger. Humans had bled to save the galaxy, and this was their reward. As protesters filled the streets and politicians argued, one thing became clear: the peace humanity had fought so hard for was hanging by a thread. The coming days would determine whether humans would find their place among the stars or be forever branded as too dangerous to join the galactic community. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next. The Galactic Council chamber was packed to the brim. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy had gathered for what promised to be a historic session. At the center of attention stood Ambassador Sarah Chen, Earth's chosen voice in this crucial moment. "Esteemed members of the Council," Chen began, her voice steady despite the weight on her shoulders, "we stand at a crossroads. The proposal before us today isn't just about restricting human activities. It's about fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of potential." Murmurs rippled through the alien crowd. Some nodded in agreement, others shifted uncomfortably. "Yes, humanity fought fiercely in the recent war," Chen continued. "Yes, our tactics surprised many, but we fought for peace, for the safety of all sentient beings in this galaxy, and now you propose to punish us for our effectiveness." The Zarkonian representative, Hevzalfor, rose to speak. "With all due respect, Ambassador Chen, it's precisely your effectiveness that concerns us. Humanity has shown itself to be unpredictable and potentially volatile. These restrictions are for the safety of all." As the debate raged on in the council chamber, Tensions were rising back on Earth. In New York, London, Beijing, and countless other cities, millions had taken to the streets. Some protested against the proposed restrictions, carrying signs that read "Humanity United" and "We Saved Your Worlds." Others, fearing galactic retribution, called for compliance. President Rodriguez watched the live feed of the council session from her office. Her advisors gathered around her. If they passed these restrictions, her defense secretary warned, it could set human progress back by centuries. Rodriguez nodded grimly. And if we refuse to comply, we risk isolation or worse. Back in the council chamber, the debate had turned heated. Species that had never agreed on anything found common ground in their wariness of humanity. Others, remembering human bravery during the war, spoke in their defense. Ambassador Chen stood firm. "We understand your fears," she said, "but consider this. By restricting us, by treating us as a threat, you push us towards becoming the very thing you fear. Instead, why not work with us? Learn from us as we learn from you." Her words seemed to strike a chord with some council members. The Atleri representative, Kelena, spoke up. Perhaps there's wisdom in this. Humanity's unique perspective could be an asset if properly channeled. Just as it seemed the tide might be turning in humanity's favor, an alarm blared through the council chamber. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a distant sector of space. "We're detecting massive energy readings," a technician announced. It's the Void Collective. They're on the move." The chamber erupted in chaos. The Void Collective, a mysterious and powerful race that had remained neutral during the war, was seen as a threat to all. In the midst of the panic, Ambassador Chen saw an opportunity. She raised her voice above the din. "Members of the Council, this is exactly why you need humanity. Our adaptability, our ingenuity. These are assets in the face of unknown threats. Work with us, not against us, and together we can face whatever comes." Her words cut through the fear, making many aliens pause and reconsider. Even Zalthor, the Zarkonian who had been so against humanity, seemed thoughtful. As the council scrambled to address this new threat, a realization began to dawn. Perhaps humanity wasn't a danger to be contained, but an ally to be embraced. Their very unpredictability, the thing that had caused so much fear, could be their greatest strength against the unknown dangers lurking in the void. The proposal to restrict humanity was quietly set aside as the council turned its attention to the looming threat. But the debate was far from over. As Ambassador Chen left the chamber, she knew that humanity's place in the galaxy was still uncertain. One thing was clear, though. The galaxy needed humanity, whether it wanted to admit it or not. The coming days would determine if this uneasy truth would lead to a new era of cooperation or plunge the galaxy into another conflict with humanity at its center. The galaxy held its breath as the Void Collective approached. Their massive ships, dark as the space between stars, moved with eerie silence. No one knew their intentions, but fear gripped every world. In this moment of crisis, the Galactic Council made an unprecedented decision. They turned to humanity for help. Admiral Jack Harper stood on the bridge of the UES Normandy, Earth's most advanced warship. Around him, a fleet of ships from every major galactic race had gathered. It was a sight no one could have imagined just days ago. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his AI assistant reported. Harper nodded, his face grim. "Let's hope we're ready for whatever's coming." As the Void Collective entered the system, tension reached its peak. To everyone's surprise, a message came through. The Void Collective wanted to talk. A meeting was quickly arranged on a neutral space station. Representatives from all races, including humans, gathered to face the unknown. The Void Collective's ambassador was unlike anything they had seen before. It seemed to shift and change, never holding one form for long. "We have watched," it said, its voice echoing strangely. "We have seen the wars, the fear, the mistrust. But we have also seen hope in humans." The room was silent. everyone too shocked to speak. Your species, it continued, looking at the human representatives, is young, unpredictable. You bring chaos, yes, but also innovation, change. The alien races looked at each other, then at the humans. Was this why the Void Collective had come? We propose a test, the ambassador said, a challenge that will determine the fate of this galaxy. Back on Earth, people watched the broadcast with bated breath. In homes, in offices, in public squares, everyone was glued to their screens. President Rodriguez sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by her advisors. A test, she muttered. The fate of the galaxy depends on a test. The Void Collective's challenge was simple yet daunting. They would present a series of problems, scientific, diplomatic, and military. How these problems were solved would determine whether the galaxy was ready for the next stage of evolution. To everyone's surprise, the Void Collective insisted that humans lead the effort. But why us? Ambassador Chen asked. We're the newest, the least experienced. The Void Ambassador's form shimmered. Precisely. You see possibilities where others see only what is. You imagine what could be, not just what is. And so, against all odds, humanity found itself at the center of galactic affairs. Scientists from Earth worked alongside alien researchers, tackling problems that had puzzled the greatest minds for centuries. Human diplomats mediated conflicts that had lasted for generations, and in simulated battles against Void Collective technology, human military strategists led mixed species teams to victory after victory. It wasn't easy. There were failures, arguments, and moments of doubt. But slowly, something remarkable began to happen. The different races started to work together in ways they never had before. Inspired by human creativity and determination, they began to see beyond their old fears and rivalries. As the final day of the test approached, the galaxy was transformed. New alliances had formed, new technologies had been developed, and a new understanding had been reached. In the end, when the Void Collective announced that the galaxy had passed their test, the celebration was universal. Humans were no longer seen as a threat, but as a vital part of the galactic community. Admiral Harper watched the celebrations from the Normandy's observation deck. Who would have thought, he said to no one in particular, that being banned from galactic wars would lead to this? As fireworks lit up the skies of 1,000 worlds, one thing was clear. The galaxy's future was bright, and humanity would play a crucial role in shaping it. Not through war, but through the very qualities that had once made them feared. Their adaptability, their creativity, and their unending ability to surprise. Years passed, and the galaxy entered a new era of peace and cooperation. The days when humans were considered too dangerous to fight seemed like ancient history. Yet the impact of those tumultuous times could still be felt across the stars. On the bustling planet of Novaterra, a mix of humans and aliens gathered for the opening of the Galactic Unity Museum. The building, a marvel of combined alien and human architecture, stood as a testament to how far they had come. Inside, holographic displays showcased the journey from conflict to cooperation. One exhibit caught everyone's eye. Humans, from war to peace. An old veteran, his hair gray and his uniform adorned with medals, stood before the display. Next to him, a young Zarkonian child looked up in wonder. "Is it true?" the child asked, its crystalline form shimmering with curiosity. "Were humans really banned from fighting?" The veteran chuckled. "It's true, little one. There was a time when the galaxy feared us so much, they thought banning us from wars was the only solution." As visitors of all species gathered around, the veteran began to tell the story. He spoke of the fierce battles, the unexpected tactics that had shocked their allies and enemies alike. He described the fear that had spread through the galaxy and the proposal to restrict human activities. But then, he said, his eyes twinkling, came the Void Collective and their great test, and everything changed. In another part of the museum, Ambassador Chen, now retired, led a group of alien diplomats through an exhibit on interspecies cooperation. The irony, she mused, is that by trying to prevent us from fighting, the galaxy pushed us to find new ways to prove ourselves. We became problem solvers, mediators, innovators. One of the diplomats, a tentacled being from a water world, spoke up. It's hard to imagine now that we ever feared humans. Your species has contributed so much to galactic peace. Chen smiled. Fear often comes from misunderstanding. In learning to work together, we all grew. Meanwhile, in the museum's interactive zone, children of various species played with a simulation of the famous Void Collective test. Human kids worked alongside young aliens, solving puzzles and facing challenges just as their parents' generation had done in reality. A Zarkonian teacher watched the scene with amazement. To think, she said to her human colleague, our species were once at war. Now our children play together, learning the values of cooperation and mutual understanding. As the day went on, more and more visitors filled the museum. They came from all corners of the galaxy, each with their own story of how the great changes had affected their worlds. There were former soldiers who had fought against humans, now working side by side with them on peacekeeping missions. Scientists who had once competed now collaborated on groundbreaking research. Diplomats who had argued fiercely in the Galactic Council now shared laughs over exotic drinks in the museum cafe. As night fell, President Rodriguez, now in her 90s, gave a speech to close the day's events. Despite her age, her voice was strong, carrying the wisdom of years. Today, we celebrate not just peace, but understanding, she said. We celebrate the journey that took us from being feared as warriors to being valued as friends. We celebrate the strength that comes not from fighting alone, but from standing together. She paused, looking out over the diverse crowd. The ban on humans in galactic wars didn't restrict us. Instead, it challenged us to be better, to find new ways to contribute. And in doing so, we didn't just change ourselves. We helped change the galaxy. As applause filled the air, fireworks lit up the sky outside. Each burst of color represented a different species, all coming together in a dazzling display of unity. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes, the most dangerous adversary can become the most valuable ally. And in the end, it wasn't about being too dangerous to fight. It was about being brave enough to extend a hand in friendship. The story of humanity's journey from feared warriors to respected peacekeepers would be told for generations to come, a shining example of how fear can be transformed into hope and how the most unexpected turns can lead to the brightest futures.